Chat, good morning. I forgot my mic was off. um, Hopefully y'all are doing well. I was supposed to stream yesterday, but I was super tired, and halfway through the day I fell asleep. So I'm up. I've been having some sleeping issues lately, but we got a lot to talk about, and we might actually play a game today. I don't know. We'll see. I've played Hellblade 2 a couple times on stream, and I kind of want to get back into it, but I also want to see what else is on Game Pass. So we'll take a look shortly after this video. So we're gonna talk. Plagued Moth is back. Unfortunately, for those of you who don't know, Plague Moth is a gore tuber essentially. He reviews gore mixtapes and stuff like that. We've talked about him here on the channel before. How he's essentially found out to be a predator. I was here for a lot of that unfolding, not on Twitch but on Discord because I used to be a part of his server, used to be a part of his community, back in 2021. A lot of people don't remember everything that unfolded, but I have a pretty good memory because I was also a member of Cold Raven server, still am. Um, and there was a lot of shit that went down. So Turkey Tom made a video a couple days ago, and I want to go over it with everybody who doesn't know because I've already watched the video, but we need to recap some things that Tom missed, both from me being there and also from Cold Raven side of things. Now, when the Plague Moth expose went down, Cold Raven did a 4-hour stream. You can't find that stream anymore. I believe it's privated. But, however, he did cut from that stream to make a specific video. There's also a stream with him, Slime Beast, Lazy Bedhead, and that creepy reading going over everything with Plague Moth. I don't have 4 hours to watch that stream, but I have enough time to go over this and Turkey Tom's video and give you my perspective as somebody who's been in that community and has witnessed a good chunk of the things that have gone on. So we're gonna get into that today, and I just sit back, relax. If you like Plagued Moth, maybe this will open your eyes to what he's done. If you don't, then this will probably give you some more understanding from a perspective of somebody who witnessed a lot of this stuff. But anyway, I just want to get into it. And I hope you guys will join me. And if you have any thoughts, please give them in the chat. Please give them in the comments below. Feel free to subscribe if you want to. You don't have to. It's not a big deal to me either way. This is not my job. So, we're going to start with this. This is the Cold Raven video. We're going to go into it. I'm going to full screen it. Let me check Streamlabs to make sure we're good. Okay.
This is a screenshot I exposed yesterday with Plague Moth talking to a 13 or 14-year-old about porn. Thanks for not leaking all my info about my furry butt plug collection and scat fetish and necrophile habits.
Okay, so the person that Cold Raven is talking about, the 13-year-old, was a mod on the server. I want to make that very clear. She was a mod. And Raven actually tried to personally get her removed. Because she was a minor. And Plague Moth just would not do it.
This was his response to me leaking this screenshot.
Dude, I talk to 5-year-olds like that. I educate everybody about necrophilia.
Okay. First off, Moth, we don't talk to children about shit like this. Second off, Moth, it's not educating them about necrophilia. You said necrophile habits, which means that you like doing things with dead things. And third off, why would you think this is okay to talk to children about?
So to anybody that was calling it fake, that's him clearly admitting. He says that he educates everybody about necrophilia. And you even say that you talk to 5-year-olds like this. That would you talk to 5-year-olds about furry butt plug collections. You talk to 5-year-olds about scat fetish and necrophile habits. What's educational about this? Can someone point out where the education happens? Because I'm not seeing it. Maybe this is going over my head.
There is none. There is none.
But to anybody that was saying, "Oh, are these fake?" Well, that's him literally admitting it because I was on stream pointing these out, and that was his rebuttal, stating that
Oh, hello, Shonk. Welcome. Welcome to the stream. We are discussing the return of Plagued Moth. I don't know if you know who that is. He's a gore tuber. He discusses gore mixtapes. He was recently he has recently returned to YouTube after a major cancellation, and as somebody who used to be a part of his community and, you know, witnessed a lot of the stuff that happened in 2021, I don't know if you've seen Turkey Tom's latest video on it, but I want to give my 2 cents because I, you know, have seen some of this going on. And so right now we are talking about his exchanges with minors um, via reacting to Cold Raven's Nest and discussing it because I'm a part of Cold Raven's community still, and he was one of the few people that first called out EDP for predatory behavior years before anybody else, and he called out Plagued Moth because he used to be a mod in his server, and they used to collaborate together actually, and this was a major issue with Moth. There's a lot of things that go on with Plagued Moth that I want to discuss, especially with his return to YouTube and the fact that he has not admitted that he is wrong in any way. So if you want to stick around, you're more than welcome. Just bear with me. I only have one screen, so I'm having to look at chat through my phone. But we're gonna get into this, and I'm putting my 2 cents in as somebody who used to be a part of his community and left after the bullshit that he pulled. But yeah, it's nice to meet you.
he
Thank you. My mic is muted. Anyway, it is no problem for the background. But yeah, Cold Raven pulled this from his 4-hour stream that's no longer available because it was privated. And he made this portion into a video. We're gonna go over that and then the Turkey Tom video because I was there for a lot of it, and I want to give my 2 cents on things that Tom missed. But yeah,
educates everybody about it, and he even talks to fucking 5-year-olds about stuff like this. What? Are you kidding me? You literally stated that you talk to 5-year-olds about necrophilia and scat and a butt plug collection.
oh yeah, for everybody just coming in because you missed the clip where he actually says it, I'm gonna go ahead and play that again so that you see what he's talking about.
I educate everybody about necrophilia. I talk to 5-year-olds like that. I educate everybody about necrophilia.
So yeah, that is where he self-admits that he talks to children about this shit.
His rebuttal, stating that he educates everybody about it, and he even talks to fucking 5-year-olds about stuff like this. What?
He's not sane. He's not sane. And a lot of people will be like, oh, why is Plagued Moth getting flack but Cold Raven isn't? He refused gore mixtapes too. Cold Raven doesn't show you anything. He describes it to you, goes over bullet points of what categories each clip is in. He does not describe it to you, and he doesn't find like the borderline illegal shit, and he does not have a Patreon where he puts the uncensored content on it. Moth's Patreon got deleted, so he puts it on BitChute and Subscribestar, but that still doesn't change the case.
What? Are you kidding me? You literally stated that you talked to 5-year-olds about necrophilia and scat and a butt plug collection, and then you stated that I was overreacting. How am I supposed to react when there's a grown man in his late 20s talking to a minor about porn, and now I'm gonna prove that she is in fact a minor? Here's Cherry Tears, the same exact girl with minor in her name. Those screenshots were from 2021, this screenshot's from 2022. And now you may be questioning, well, Cold Raven, how did he know if she was a minor back in 2021? Because me and Plagued Moth talked about this girl before, and I told him...
Yes, and I used to be part of the server. I was a patron. I remember when the shit was being said, and Raven was a mod in his server for a time. I was also a part of the Cold Raven server first. I'm still a part of Cold Raven server. And, this is what led to Moth being called out originally. But there's so much other shit that has gone on that, we're going to go over in the Turkey Tom video. But we need to talk about Cold Raven's side of it because he was there.
Him to ban her from his Discord. I told him to ban her because she is 13. He decided not to ban her, and he decided to give her moderator. Plagued Moth has then said in his live stream that I have to prove that he did this. Well, what if I said I have screenshots proving that she has moderator? He said the burden of evidence is on me because he did not expect me to have...
That's the issue. Moth allowed them to be in this server. And the thing is... Yeah, Cold Raven wanted to ban her. Moth did not. Moth is the one that owns this specific server, the Hive Mind Cult. I don't know if it's still called the Hive Mind Cult. That was 3 years ago. But... I'm just being honest. Moth never really truly cared who came through his server. Cold Raven had a strictly 18 plus server. He still does. In fact, I think it's 21 plus now. Just because of how fucking ridiculous shit got. I mean, he's always had an 18 plus, but there are people who, sneak in, they don't verify their age and whatnot, and then they eventually get banned. But on Moth's server, minors run rampant. And that's what you need to understand.
Have all the evidence and all the screen recordings. Sucks for you that I do. So right here, we're looking at Moth's Discord, and we're going to go ahead and zoom into that bottom right corner, as you see right there. See right there? Cherry Minor. That is her with her junior mod role, as Moth called it. He called it a junior mod role. She was able to mute people and she was able to kick people. She wasn't able to ban, but now here's my question. Why did you give a person with minor in their name admin? Why did you give them a admin role inside your Discord? You said it was my burden of evidence. Well, here's the evidence. What now?
Yeah, exactly. Why did you give a minor moderator?
Now. What now? And stop saying this is drama. This is not fucking drama. You being a predator towards a little girl is not drama. Stop saying it's drama, because it's not. Drama is he said, she said. This is literally you talking about porn with a kid. This is not drama. You're almost 30 years old talking about porn with a kid. This is not drama. What is this is not fucking drama. You're just...
Also, I want to go back to before he, cropped the screenshot. Moth said that he accidentally, quote-unquote, watched Daisy's Destruction back on 4chan. We need to talk about Daisy's Destruction for those who don't know. It's the worst snuff film ever made. The creator, while he was in prison, was interviewed on 60 Minutes for why he made such a vile tape. I'm not going to go into what that content is. Moth has a weird obsession with bringing it up, but you can't accidentally view it. I know what story he's talking about because Scaretheater did a video where somebody on 4chan said they uploaded Daisy's Destruction, the full video, onto YouTube. They did for a solid hour. And somebody brought the link to everybody. Mind you, you can't accidentally watch it. They informed you what it was, and you chose to watch it, if this is true. I know the link being in 4chan was true, but I don't know if he actually watched it or whatnot. But I honestly think he does because of his weird obsession with it and the fact that you can't just accidentally watch it.
a weirdo. And you even said that you talk to 5-year-olds like that. Yo, I don't even know what to say. You guys heard it from his own mouth. He stated he talks to 5-year-olds like that. That's what he said. So here we are right here. I was sent this by a mutual fan right here. And look, you see how he says that he accidentally watched Daisy's Destruction, which is an illegal tape of a child getting molested? Yeah, look, he says he accidentally watched it. Yeah, nice. Let's refresh the page. So, yeah, he can't lie about it. And there you go. That's your account, right? That's you, right? Can't fake that, can I?
Exactly. This is real shit. This is his real account. This came from his own fucking mouth.
There you go. Yeah, you watched illegal child material. Let's slowly zoom in on this screenshot. There you go. Let's slowly zoom in on it. Oh, man.
You can't accidentally watch it. He's talking about it when it was posted on 4chan because somebody uploaded it to YouTube and it didn't get taken down for an hour. The person who uploaded the link to 4chan literally said it was Daisy's Destruction. Like, there's a story by Scaretheater on it. I don't know if you watch Scaretheater, but there is a fucking Scaretheater video where people are covered reacting to it. Exactly. Who believes accidentally watched? Thank you. Somebody finally listened. Like, you can't accidentally watch that shit. And if you don't find it, if you didn't find it when it was up there, it is really hard to find it because it's so fucking deep in the dark web, and you have to go to like predator websites that have like FBI honeypots and shit. The only reason that I even know any of this is because I watch Mutahar. Mutahar has talked about the deep web more than we know. And so, like, you learn, like, what is easily accessible and what is not. Obviously, he doesn't go search for illegal content. That's not what he does. But he just browses the top waters of the deep web. But he's very knowledgeable on the deep web because he has to, like, make people aware that you can use the deep web safely and legally. But, like, there are certain levels to the deep web that a lot of people don't understand. And I have been educated on that from Mutahar's deep web browsing videos. You should go watch them. They're actually really good. But, like, you can't just watch that on fucking accident. You have to go searching for it.
That doesn't look good. That does not look good. That's you, right? Yeah, admitting that I've seen part of Daisy's by accident? You saw it by accident. Okay, well, here's a contradiction for you. So now you see that same screenshot where it says that I see.
And then he backtracks and said he owned or watched it. Like, he backtracks saying, I never owned or watched it. I have tons of disclaimers disproving this claim, which is a crime to accuse without warrant.
Seen part of Daisy's Destruction by accident? Look at the top screenshot from his Twitter. He said never said I owned or watched it.
Also, there is one video, and I can't remember what video it is. It might be on the Junko Furuta case that Moth covered, but he references Daisy's Destruction, and he claims it's from the 60 Minutes special, but a lot of people who have analyzed that video say that the one Moth shows is higher quality. So how the fuck did you get that footage, Moth? How the fuck did you get that footage? There is no way that you can produce a higher quality thing of illegal content, a trailer for illegal content, without actually owning the material.
I have tons of disclaimers disproving this. What? And it's, hold on. He says it's claim, which is a crime to accuse without warrant. I just proved that you admitted to say it was a screen recording of your entire Discord. I just proved you said it. What? This is awkward. You're saying you never watched it? Never said I owned or watch it?
You're curious about Cold Raven's proof? Or Moth's? Because he mentions Moth mentions in several videos that he, you know, accidentally saw a portion of it. Yeah, Moth doesn't have any fucking proof. He doesn't have any fucking proof that he didn't watch it. But if you want to know about the 4chan thing, let me actually pull up the Scaretheater video, because there is a Scaretheater video on it. And we'll get back to this, I promise. This was the channel that covered it. So, trying to find it. Did he take it down? I know that he had it because I watched the video years ago. Okay, let me find Scaretheater. The only attempt at proof is that he backtracked and said that he didn't watch it. But there is a trailer on, I think, the Junko Furuta video that he made. I gotta scroll down pretty fucking far to find this, but I know that fucking Scaretheater covered this. How far back was it? Did he get rid of it? He had to have gotten rid of it. There's no way. I watched this like 3 years ago. Oldest. Hold on. I know it was here. You can't forget this fucking font. Scaretheater talked about it and talked about how quickly everybody just, there were like 800 people that watched it. Did he get rid of it? There's no way. I mean, I can understand if he did, but I'm gonna get put on a watch list for this, probably. But I promise it's to show that it was a real story. Oh my god. He got rid of it. I don't know why. Because it informed people. But it's not my business. I'm not the owner of this YouTube channel. Yeah, I guess it was taken down by YouTube. That would be my only guess. But like, I saw that video of Scaretheater covering it.
Yeah, you.
I saw that video of Scaretheater covering it like 3 years ago. But, you know, if it got taken down by YouTube, I can't do anything about it. He didn't show any material because he didn't click on the link, but he did see the 4chan link. And maybe, you know, one day I can find it. So, I believe that he saw it on 4chan, but it was not accidental. I know that it was informed because I watched that video wondering how the fuck that happened. The Scaretheater video.
You say right here that I've seen part of Daisy's Destruction by one. Yeah, you said you've seen it, but now you're saying you've never seen it. Why are you contradicting yourself? Why are you contradicting yourself? Why do you keep going back and forth on saying that you saw it, then you didn't see it? And if people don't know what Daisy's Destruction is, it's an illegal tape of a man known as Peter Scully who molests a baby and like little girls with his girlfriends. Yeah. They abduct kids and molest them. And apparently Moth is over here stating that he's accidentally saw it. Accidental schmental. It was an accident. He accidentally found it on 4chan. Accidentally clicked it. Because on 4chan to see videos, you have to click them. You have to click the play button. So he accidentally saw the thumbnail, accidentally clicked it, accidentally played it, and he was like, oh god, I can't move, I can't stop watching it. It was all by accident, people.
Cold Raven's just making fun of him at this point, and I don't blame him.
It's all by accident. Of course, all by accident. The only difference between you and Burns' show is that he recorded his reaction to Daisy's destruction. You did not. Dafu Love is fake. It is 100% fake, and I stand.
Okay, so now that we've covered Cold Raven calling Moth out, we're gonna go to Turkey Tom video, and y'all are gonna watch it with me, and we're going to go over some points that Tom missed, because they need to be addressed. I'm really kind of frustrated that Scaretheater's video was taken down because I know that he covered it. It is what it is. But, let me go ahead to... I have to go to Turkey Tom's actual fucking page because otherwise
Ava
it
Chris
doesn't
Tyson,
show
formerly
up.
known as Chris.
It doesn't show up if I don't.
Decisions.
Alright, here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Logan Paul, one of the biggest mainstream content creators of the last decade, had his career seriously threatened when he nonchalantly reacted to a deceased person's body on video. But what if nonchalantly reacting to things unspeakably worse than a simple body was what you did in every video?
Yep, that's essentially Plagued Moth.
This is what YouTuber Plagued Moth is known for, rather was known for, before he mired himself in so much drama that it destroyed his career. Though his channel was created
He became homeless for a bit, but now he's back, acting like nothing happened.
all the way back in 2011, it spent most of its existence in inactivity. The first upload, or at least the first that's still up, is a gameplay of Silent Hill from 2018, a signal of Moth's interest in the dark and sinister. Despite this, it took another 2 years until he began uploading regularly, with the release of the first episode of his Weird Web miniseries. In it, he covered relatively well-known horror tuber staples like the Shea St. John art project. The video was unedited and had loud background noise, almost like a low production value live stream instead of a video. It was clear.
See, I don't edit my videos because I have an overnight shift, but I still try to keep, background noise from affecting my videos because I only have a laptop. So I get it, but still. His old videos were loud as fuck.
Clear Moth didn't have the recipe for success from the get-go, and he must have figured this out since what he lacked in quality, he made up for in dedication. He tried his hand at anything to become a successful content creator, from ASMR to creepypasta readings and even YouTuber drama coverage. Eventually, Moth finally found himself a niche: contemporary true crime commentary. Specifically, his video covering a case of a streamer who killed his girlfriend for a $1,000 donation got a lot more.
Yeah, I'm a fellow night owl. I work the overnight shifts. So 90% of the day I sleep. And then the other 10% I do my adulting. And it does affect my sleep schedule on my days off. But, you gotta do what you gotta do. This is not my job. And it probably will never be my job. Because I am a workaholic and I know the pressure of having a micro celebrity status being a toll on your mental health. And also, the power trip is not worth it.
more views than Moth was used to, which he took as a sign he should double down on this kind of content. And he did take this doubling down pretty literally at first, since he made 3 follow-up videos rehashing and updating the same story. As unusually successful as these videos were for his standards, his channel only went to the next level in 2021, when he covered 2 notorious cases of people recording themselves taking their own lives in a particularly brutal fashion. For context, much like ElsaGate, there are
It's 5 a.m. for you and you're an insomniac? Well, you're gonna like my content because my content is based around, you know, rabbit holes and icebergs and research and stuff like that. I like to learn things. I'm autistic. I love just going down rabbit holes. But also, I have been on YouTube since its inception. So I have watched a lot of creators fall off the platform. And some of them I've interacted with. I used to be on Minilad's Discord server before he became, ousted as a predator. My fan art was featured in some of his videos. So yeah, I like to dig into mysteries and commentary on, these problematic people and spread awareness.
Are gore communities operating right under YouTube's radar. Since the platform doesn't allow any kind of gore to be posted, the consumers of that kind of content find creative ways to bypass it, like uploading an animated recreation or just audio of a given video. The comparison to ElsaGate is relevant insofar as there are many examples of this kind of content being clearly made by kids or with kids as a target audience based on how it's packaged. It's impossible to say how large this niche is, but given how prevalent memes about seeing gore and shock videos as a little kid are, it's probably much larger than you'd expect.
Yeah, there were plenty of shock sites growing up. I wasn't there for when Ogrish transferred to LiveLeak, but I remember when LiveLeak was around, and that was the most popular one at the time. I wasn't there for Rotten.com because I didn't know shock sites until I was in elementary school. But at the same time, those did affect and desensitize me to a lot of things, and I will admit that I can never truly, look at death the same way. I try to look at it from a balanced perspective, but at the same time, I have to remember that trauma does desensitize you to shit. And for those who have not been down the gore content rabbit hole, don't do it. Stick to your horror movies. And even then, be careful what horror movies you watch, because some of them are borderline on the edge of looking real.
All of this is to say that this demographic was heavily capitalized on by Moth's video, especially since he goes into minute detail about what happened in the footage and the footage's background stories. These factors compounded, and the video quickly got over 1 million views, though it now sits at over 2.5 million. Just like he did the first time, he decided to double down on this kind of content to try and replicate its success, narrowing his scope from general true crime to cases where a heinous incident was caught on camera. His next 2 videos that revolved around this theme both got over 500,000 views, so it was clear what the path moving forward was. But unlike most other true crime content creators, Moth had a conspicuous, and some say disrespectful, tone to his coverage. Besides the over-the-top...
I want to point this out because I've made a video talking about how Moth and Mama Max are 2 sides of the same coin. For those who don't know, Mama Max was a false predator hunter. He claimed that he would hunt down pedophiles in a vigilante style. He never got any cases actually taken care of, never went to law enforcement, so they never got arrested or convicted. He just came back too. But he does the same shit that you see in the screen.
Gross horror movie aesthetic he used as packaging, he laced his presentation with a hot topic edginess that took away from the seriousness of the crimes he covered. In his description of a murder case in Brazil, he said, "A terrible murder was overlooked because it happened in Brazil in 2007, when Daniel Petrie tortured and eventually murdered 12-year-old Gabriel Kuhn over being scammed out of an MMORPG currency. It surprisingly wasn't Raid Shadow Legends. Obviously this is a joke, and it doesn't mean that Moth..."
Yeah, he always covered these in kind of mediocre and comedic light, which doesn't make it any better.
Supports this activity, but still, most true crime content creators dislike this approach. The only people who respond positively to this attitude are desensitized teenagers who are too immature to understand the gravity of these crimes and are tuning in purely out of morbid curiosity. While making risque content was his strategy to get attention on YouTube, over on Twitter, he was trying to get on the radar of bigger YouTubers by basically becoming omnipresent in their mentions. At first, he tried Mutahar, but when Muta didn't budge, he simply switched over to Wendigoon. After multiple failed attempts, weepy, self-pitying complaints about it and doing the same video format as Wendigoon, the Wendig glazing finally showed results. In May, Wendigoon relented and gave...
I want to talk about this video. The most disturbing movie ever made, quote unquote. It's called MD Pope 5. Now, if you've watched the Disturbing Movies Iceberg coverage, he said, "I like your tweets, lol." I know. If you've watched the Disturbing Movies Iceberg, you know about MD Pope 1 through 3. The MD Pope stands for the most disturbing person on planet Earth. They're gore mixtapes. There's nothing illegal in them, really. But, that only reason I know that is because Cold Raven covered it. He never showed us any information. He just described a play-by-play. MD Pope 5 was made by a member of Moth's and Cold Raven's server named Fergie the One and Only. Fergie used to be a mod in Moth's server. And Fergie was a problematic character. I found out personally because he invited me to his personal server in my DMs. His personal server was full of minors. I think there was only Fergie and myself who were actual adults there. And he was sending nudes in general chat to these minors. Okay? I brought it up to both Moth and Cold Raven. It partially resulted in Fergie getting banned from Moth's server. There were other things he was doing that was not okay. But in Cold Raven's server, that was the ban ticket. He also is dating a 15-year-old who is a furry and a neo-Nazi. But he made MD Pope 5. He was obsessed with Plagued Moth. And he emailed this video to several YouTubers, including Wendigoon, including, I think, Night Crime, fucking Cold Raven, bunch of people. How hard is it for people not to be attracted to minors? That's what I'm saying. It's not that difficult. It really isn't that hard.
Gave him not only a collab video, but a sponsored video that got uploaded to Wendigoon's channel. This is as big a privileged position as Moth could possibly...
Oh yeah, Mr. GG was also in this one.
Aspire to, and everything was coming together for him to become another staple personality in the community of dark and obscure content. However, right around the same time, Moth began sowing the seeds of his own destruction. In mid-2021, he decided that just describing violent videos in painstaking detail wasn't enough, as he graduated to actually showing parts of them, only keeping the really bloody parts censored. Eventually, he decided that this wasn't enough either, and went on to record himself live reacting to full videos, blurring them out but letting the audio play unedited, meaning...
Yeah, a lot of the audio is played unedited, and honestly, when a Plague Moth video auto plays and you hear that fucking audio from the gore mixtapes, it is one of the most brutal things to surprise your eardrums. Now, mind you, how long did I watch Moth? Watched Moth up until like early 2023. I regret it. Don't get me wrong, but you become desensitized. Now, I will admit that I still question his code of ethics with everything else, like how he handled those situations and how he handled his Discord server. I actually left Moth's server. I was still watching his content, but I left his server in 2021 after the Fergie incident, but I just want to point that out.
You could still hear whatever was happening in the video. In all fairness, Moth was doing something no one else is really doing. The only issue is that there's a reason why no one else does that. Because it's a bad idea. No other person in this makeshift community, from people who cover goofy ARGs to those like Nick Crowley who cover real Zoosadist circles, would turn real murder into a spectator sport.
See, the thing with Nick Crowley is he does it respectfully. Nexpo, when he covers true crime, does it respectfully. Night Docs does it respectfully. Moth just doesn't. He doesn't.
Not because it's controversial and daring, but because it's a dumb idea for a multitude of reasons. To make matters worse, Moth could often be seen giggling and cracking jokes while he watched people get tortured. This particular video he's reacting...
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen the One Girl 99 Stomps video, but it's literally called Counting with Moth.
to is the Azov crucifixion, which was widely claimed to be faked. But Moth himself in the video suggests that its authenticity is simply unverified, meaning he acknowledges the possibility, however remote, that he could have just reacted in that manner to a real video of a person being crucified. But if that video possibly being fake makes it tolerable, Moth immediately goes on to cover very real videos while making the same kind of offhand remarks. One of Moth's worst offenses, and one that would come back to bite him later, is when he reacted to a video of a 15-year-old girl being stomped on her head by a mugger while giggling and counting the stomps like Sesame Street Dracula, even titling the video after it.
And I'm going to do something more messed up. I'm going to count how many stomps actually happened because I'm curious. You can judge me all you want. You kindly don't care at this point.
Yeah, no, that's not how it should have been handled. But what do I know? I'm not a large content creator. Just fucking ugh.
Even if he tries to play this down and claim that this video is being misconstrued, this is how he himself described it in a reply he made to someone claiming he only supported the LGBT for clout. Bitch, I cackled like a hyena while a girl got her skull stomped in. Screw YouTube and screw you. Moth?
Exactly. That is your point. You can backtrack all you want saying this is misinformation, but you yourself tweeted that you cackled like a hyena. Bruh.
Moth truly supports LGBTQ and trans rights. Let people be who they are. There's some speculation about whether or not the victim of the attack actually died as a consequence, but regardless, it's a brutal...
I've heard from people who were in that area say that she went to the hospital and nobody knows if she made it out of the hospital, but regardless, this is not how it should have been handled.
Act happening to a minor, and Moth saw fit to not only watch it, but react to it like it was a Fine Bros video. This definitely crossed whatever the line is that separates covering cases and consuming violent crimes as entertainment. Within a month of that upload, he reacted to an entire mixtape of child abuse material and had the original audio play throughout the video. It's not like this is the only thing he could do that got views, so there's no good reason for him to...
I think it was Amber Alert. I can't remember if that was an album or a mixtape. I think it was a mixtape. And the thing is, just in the past week, he made a video saying Amber Alert is now classified as illegal. So, yes, he could be incriminated for this.
To be so laser focused on reacting to real life abuse caught on tape. As a matter of fact, due to the nature of the content, his videos would often get age restricted and demonetized for obvious reasons. But how did he make his money, you may ask? Well, there's his merch store where he actually sold items that directly referred to gore videos, which is pretty sketchy to say the least. But as he himself acknowledged, his main source of income was Patreon, which went from $1,000 in January 2021 to over $4,000 in June, to allegedly...
I regret giving $2 a month to this fucking asshole.
Over $10,000 in August. The perks were pretty basic. You get access to bonus videos, behind-the-scenes vlogs, and premium Discord benefits. In July, his Patreon was temporarily shut down, and he posted a message to his private Discord server commenting on it, saying, "The Patreon is temporarily shut down. It's okay because we needed some changes around here. I'm appealing the takedown, and if we have to rebuild, so be it. If we get the same..."
I am biologically female, but I identify as non-binary. How's your day going?
Page back, awesome. But regardless, this will be the new format for the Patreon. Right after, he clarifies what you get with the higher tier's premium Discord benefits, uncensored gore, and access to the full mixtapes and clips he's reacting to in the videos.
See? He had this on his Patreon. I was on the server when these new changes were made. And it was not 2022, it was 2021. Non-binary means that you either feel connected to both genders or neither gender. It is in this umbrella of like gender fluid. You don't conform to a specific gender binary. My biological sex is female, but identification-wise, I don't lean towards one side or the other. Does that make sense?
Based on this alone, we can deduce that this was the reason for his Patreon.
Okay, so he put the new Patreon stuff down in 2021, but the policy developments came out in 2022. Okay, yeah. Hopefully that helps. Welcome to the stream, by the way. But, yeah, he fucking had the uncensored gore on his Patreon. Let's just be honest. And he wants to defend with tooth and nail that he didn't. I was there, Moth. I was there. You dumb fuck.
Being taken down, as the distribution of graphic, sadistic, and violent imagery is expressly forbidden by Patreon's terms of service, despite having a wife and multiple kids to provide.
Also, a lot of people want to point out that Cold Raven had uncensored mixtapes on his Patreon. He did, but he took them down because he realized how unhealthy it was. I want to make that very clear. He does not do that anymore. He does not do that anymore. He is a lot healthier towards his community with these kinds of things. And he doesn't even really like doing the mixtapes anymore. At this point, if he continues to do the iceberg, Cold Raven just does it to finish off the iceberg. Because people weren't covering the bottom tier.
Provide for, he continues to jeopardize his main source of income by disobeying Patreon's rules and instead circumventing them by.
My ability is called instant death to any target. If I simply think that I want to kill someone.
By hosting the videos on Mega and.
I don't have enough money for premium right now, so I apologize.
Emailing them to his patrons. Ethical questions aside, this is just plain stupid and.
Yeah, he had a mega folder for tier 2 patrons. I was only a tier 1 patron. Thank God I never had to see any of this shit. I never watched the uncensored stuff. I hated watching it.
Responsible. User Ugly Gremlin 69 on Kiwi Farms was seemingly responsible.
YouTube Premium is a scam. Yeah, you're right. I only have Music Premium, and that's only because, I don't use Spotify on mobile because it doesn't let me pick my songs on a playlist like it does on the web version. And Treble doesn't have everything I want.
Responsible for the Discord leaks, proving that this was happening to those outside of Moth's inner circle, and he then proceeded to dump the 3 most suspicious channels to the farms. One of the messages from these leaks shows him speaking about getting the child abuse tape.
See, look, he talked about both of these mixtapes. I'm an inch away from having Amber Alert and another mixtape called Suffer Little Children, both from Tor. These mixtapes are about harm to children. He covered them. Okay, and he just made a video. If you look on Plagued Moth's channel, he just made a video talking about how Amber Alert is now illegal because he didn't know if it was illegal. Now he knows, but he can't fucking backtrack on that because that was a video that he made reacting to it, and now he's saying it is illegal. So if anybody in Detroit wants to fucking incriminate him, now is the time. I'm telling you, he fucked up.
From the dark web, which is something he said in the video as well, following it up by claiming he sent a tip to the FBI about it. I don't really understand how it can be bad enough that he tips the FBI off, but it's not so bad he can't download it from a dark web distributor and then send it to his own audience. At that point, how far off are you from distributing child abuse material to sadists? He's reacting to animal abuse, and those kinds of people will obsessively look for content pertaining.
Yeah, no, Oh god, Moth makes me so angry, dude. He makes me so angry. It just fucking stupid. I didn't even watch this video. I didn't watch old number 7 either. God, these videos, the fact that they were up here made me sick to my stomach.
To their interests. So how do you ensure that you're not getting those kinds of people as an audience? The answer is you can't, and he just didn't care. At the beginning of that same video, he clearly states that he will find a way to continue providing uncensored content to his followers, despite whatever issues may come up with the Patreon. Despite the pretty decent.
Yeah, he started using Subscribe Star, and he also started using BitChute.
amount of money he was making at this point, there were no real improvements to his production value. The video's packaging and editing were still very amateur. It sure didn't look like he had someone else editing for him, so he probably was doing it all by himself at zero cost, keeping all of the money. Smart business tactic, if I do say so myself. There was so much backlash from the child abuse mixtape video that it pushed Moth to make a follow-up explaining why that kind of content is legal and doesn't qualify as child exploitation because it's not sexual. But of course, this isn't a very strong point, since there are many people who consume sadist content for gratification.
It doesn't matter if it's sexual or not. Child exploitation is still child exploitation. It does not matter. Like, you fucked up.
He was clearly developing an audience of actual degenerates, and he was fine profiting off of them. But that's not even all of it. People in the comments and in Kiwi Farms pointed out Moth was being a little facetious when he claimed...
Alright, I'm gonna read this right quick. This is from Kiwi Farms, if I remember correctly. Screenshot-wise, there's some hilarious shots I've saved on my other computer. Might have to check later what's still there. I think the crowning one was Moth saying he got investigated by the FBI through a phone call and advised to continue with the mixtape review due to them bringing awareness. It actually hurt my brain even writing this, but yes, he actually said that in a Discord channel that was hosted by a mod from Cold server, which was like a more underground server for posting gore. Okay. Cold server, yeah, they used to fucking do that. I will admit that, but he stopped. And plus, there were no minors in the server. I've been on that server for like 4 years. Almost. So yeah. What's really interesting about this ordeal is not many realize he's completely made a fool of himself. I don't doubt it's to stupidity he's never really been the brightest person. I mean, look who he married. But not to get off track, if we go to the original review, he states that the mixtape is 36 minutes long, even though it was actually 38 minutes long. And his other revisit video, he states that the ending is a screenshot of the summary of Amber Alert. Simple mistake, easily forgiven, right and wrong. Not only did he state that there is child material in the mixtape, which is extreme, and therefore resulted quite a bit more than just a phone call from the FBI for admitting to have possessed that. He also forgot to mention in both of his videos that the ending also includes a track from Pseudoscorpion, which is a notorious album that includes sounds from Daisy's Destruction. It is a child abuse audio album. Now, I personally believe that he left that tiny little detail out on purpose because he previously made a video talking about Pseudoscorpion, stated it's illegal. In the USA where he lives, it's completely legal because it's audio, and didn't want to look like a moron, not realizing that ship has long sailed. However, by doing so and getting attention to the said mixtape, he's put many people in danger who go out looking for it. Child exploitation laws vary by country, and many have that on the same level. As for the creator of the Amber Alert and Sister mixtapes, is this fucking guy, Jack Hack. He was, or maybe he's still a freaking poster on Cold Raven's Discord. He is not. He has been removed after we found out about it. He chatted a lot with Moth in the underground server as well. He received the 2 mixtapes originally from this individual. Jack Hack bragged to have seen the mixtape when Moth made the video about it, and pretty much nobody had it. It was only ever leaked like half a year ago on Bestgore by Jack Hack himself. The writing was pretty identical. It's pretty common knowledge for anyone in the Mondo Gore community who is making that absolute garbage, so it's disgusting for him to still try to downplay into some mystery only for clicks. Cold Raven didn't know about Jack Hack for the fattest minute until he started bragging about this shit. He was removed promptly.
That the tape didn't contain anything sexual, alleging he forgot to mention in both of his mixtape videos that the ending also includes a track from Pseudoscorpion, which is a notorious album that includes sounds from... Now, I personally believe he left that tiny little detail out on purpose because he previously had made a video talking about Pseudoscorpion and stating that it's illegal. That's also wrong. In the USA where he lives, it's completely legal, and didn't want to look like a moron, not realizing that ship has long sailed. However, by doing so and getting attention to the said mixtape, he has put many people in danger who go out looking for the mixtape because child exploitation laws vary by country, and many have that on the same level as CP. As for the creator of the mixtapes, it's Jack Hack. He was, or maybe still is, a very frequent poster on Cold Raven's Discord, and he chatted a lot with Moth in the underground server as well. Moth has admitted to receiving the 2 mixtapes originally from this individual. Cold Raven's Discord server's history is filled with this guy, Jack Hack, bragging to have seen the mixtape when Moth made the video about it, and back then, pretty much nobody had it. It was only ever leaked like half a year ago on Best Gore by Jack Hack himself. I can't verify that, but the writing of the person on Best Gore was identical to that of Jack Hack. It's pretty common knowledge for anyone in the Mondo/Gore community by now who is making that absolute garbage, so it's disgusting for him to try and downplay it as some mystery only for clicks. I have to disclaim here that this post is an allegation, but if true, it means Moth was closer to the person who provided those videos than he initially let on. In another post, that same KF user alleged to have been directly in touch with Moth for some period of time and was familiar with who was in his community, which would strengthen his claim. Besides the creation of a side project channel where he posted a now unlisted Chris Chan video, Moth's online activity went on as usual, with him dropping yet another.
I want to go back to the Kiwi Farms post, the second one, because there was some shit that was said, and I need to talk about it for a minute. Let me get to it.
Clicks. I have to disclaim here that this post is an allegation, but if true, it means Moth was closer to the person who provided those videos than he initially let on. In another post, that same KF.
Okay, so this was a year later. I have a lot of insight regarding Moth as I was directly in touch with him for a while. Honestly, the most disgusting part of this entire thing is he's 100% going for a minor-only audience. Proof of that is his Discord, which is filled with non-binary people and these flowery pictures as profile pictures. One thing I can say for certain is that he's one of the most toxic and narcissistic pieces of shit I've ever had the pleasure of talking to, and is glad to see his downfall is finally happening. As with Cold Raven, he is, or at least was, Moth's dick rider. Funny thing is, Cold Raven's Discord despises Moth, but Cold Raven, due to reasons of not wanting beef with a larger YouTuber for potential financial gain, that's my guess, has always agreed with whatever Moth said and was on his side. I don't know how things are between them now, but not even so long ago they were butt buddies. That I can't quite explain because because everyone that's been in Cold Raven's Discord knows what I'm talking about. Non-stop racism, and I don't know what that word means. I can't read it. It's blurred out. Versus Moth's server that's filled with absolutely abhorrent emojis targeting minors and making him seem like Gore is just something fun to watch with the pals. Okay. Yeah, Cold Raven's Discord is full of edginess. A lot of people on Cold Raven's Discord are 4chan users, don't get me wrong. I'm not justifying them. But at the same time, I'd rather deal with that bullshit than deal with Gore with minors. Now, do not get me wrong. I never engage with that shit. And a lot of it is just fucking jokes. A lot of us are different fucking races. We're not an all-white audience. I'm mixed. You know? There are a lot of Latinas in there. There are a lot of... we have an Australian guy that's in there. We have a lot of black people who are in there. We all fucking participate in the edgy jokes. It's a 4chan level of edginess, but without the fucking doxing and shit. We're still intellectual enough to know when the limit can be drawn. On the final note, I find it quite hilarious that he has now multiple videos regarding, I'm gonna guess this says Amber Alert, yet he knew exactly who made the compilation that essentially boosted his entire career from the get-go. He tries to downplay it to his minor-filled audience as some mysterious dark web shit, while he knew from the day it was given to him who fucking made it and has admitted to knowing it as well. Fair enough. He knows who it is. He's interacted with them. I'm going to assume that this blurred out part next to nonstop racism is like stupidity, like another word for stupidity.
User alleged to have been directly in touch with Moth for some period of time and was familiar with who was in his community, which would strengthen his claim. Besides the creation of a side project channel where he posted a now unlisted Chris Chan video, Moth's online activity went on as usual, with him dropping yet another mixtape reaction video immediately after the controversy surrounding the first one. However, business as usual came to a screeching halt in November when Moth posted a short video to TikTok and YouTube, informing his followers that his 4-year-old daughter was suddenly diagnosed with a life-threatening case of type 1 diabetes. According to
We need to talk about Moth's kids because he exploits his kids for financial gain, and I don't mean that lightly. A lot of his GoFundMes are supposed to support his daughter, but to get insulin. But at the same time, Moth has admitted, and this was part of the stream. You saw the video from Cold Raven's stream, the clip, but the full 4-hour stream, he mentions that Moth literally admits, and there's a clip from Moth saying this, that he gets off using his daughter's insulin. He does. He admits that. So I need y'all to like really think about that for a minute. I really feel like this man should not have kids in his presence.
Moth, they were having to pay for everything out of pocket since they didn't have health insurance. It comes as a bit of a surprise that despite the money he was making at this point, he didn't have insurance. But regardless, this is absolutely terrible and it really shouldn't be joked about. I'm only mentioning this for context since it will be brought up later. And fortunately, his daughter got better and got treatment for her condition. As a consequence of this news, you can see just from the comments that Moth got a lot of support, not only from his own audience, but also from other content creators during this situation. But not everyone was as keen on suspending their criticisms of Moth because he was going through a tough time. A few weeks prior to this incident, a thread on r/horror got the ball rolling on the conversation about Moth, where users said, he started off with true crime stuff like Junko Furuta and the murder of Bianca Devins. It was really interesting to watch, but he took it a step further and added Patreon exclusives where you can view the actual gore and murder while he commentates. First off, this is wildly disrespectful to the victims. He's essentially profiting off of the gruesome deaths of others. I'm sure they'd appreciate to rest instead of being paid to be seen murdered by people on the internet. Second, he's become distasteful. In a video, a girl gets stomped to death and he titled it Counting with Moth and counted the stomps while laughing. Third, this is some sick stuff. Who wants to pay to watch people get gruesomely killed? I don't know where else to post this, but I'd like to hear people's opinions on this. I find it disturbing and insensitive. I watch this stuff because of Wendigoon. I'm still subbed to Moth, but it's rough. His tagline is the most controversial commentary on YouTube. It isn't. It's just gore breakdowns. And to add to the problem, it feels like 50% of the video is just his drawn-out intro with self-promotion to his Patreon, plus the screw the haters, I'ma be me speech he gives in every video. And then 30% of the video is him rambling and repeating things he said. The rest is actual content. I want to support a small creator that's putting in the work to build something, but Plagued Moth just makes it difficult.
If you are subbed to Plagued Moth, open your fucking eyes, dude.
Can't stand him. Can't believe I was ever subbed. I saw he even made merch on his TikTok about a shock video. Really disrespectful.
The shock video in question is Funky Town Gore. It's from what I've gathered from understanding it, it was a gore video. A guy had no hands, he had no face, and he was being pumped full of adrenaline to not to keep him alive, but so that he could realize what happened to him. And I believe it was filmed in a Latin American country in one of the buildings the School of the Americas used to run. You know how I know this? Because Nick Spheres covered Plagued Moth's Not Safe for Life iceberg. She never showed us anything. She just went through play-by-play and gave her own points, talking about how the School of the Americas led to all these cartels being able to have these torture methods. The U.S. military created the School of the Americas to teach Latin American countries how to torture and kill communists and dictators. And it was pretty fucking bad. That's why several cartels have the abilities that they do. That's why they make the torture videos that they do. And the thing with these developing countries and the lives that they live, we have to go through the perspective that while it may be inhumane to us, the shit that they do may be for a reason that we don't understand. We are not given context with these shock videos. And Moth made a mockery of it by making fucking merch out of it.
As you can see, many of the people who are now criticizing him were, at one point, fans of his, or at least people who got into his content with an open mind due to his collaboration with Wendigoon, only to find that Moth's approach was inappropriate for the kind of content he did. This wasn't the only Reddit-based controversy Moth found himself embroiled in, as in a post of his from April 2021, he said he'd watched a video called Dig Your Roots and went into details as to what it contained, eventually making a video about it. The only thing is, this video never existed. Dig Your Roots was made up by a 4chan thread on the paranormal board where users were trying to make up fake lost media. As it turned out, Moth was repeating false information verbatim, presumably because he read the summary of the fake video somewhere. 2 months after his Reddit post, he explained what happened, claiming his mind played a game of telephone with itself and that he'd overlaid the fake story of Dig Your Roots onto another real video. The real video in question was one particularly controversial clip uploaded by WorldCorp, a project that's widely known as an ARG despite not really being one. It's understandable why, since it has a very obscure and mysterious vibe to it. In the WorldCorp clip, a child can be heard screaming in what appears to be a dimly lit bathroom while someone outside is recording and yelling at them.
So we need to talk about WorldCorp. WorldCorp was a series of video and music projects, but the issue is that the kid screaming was being yelled at by his older brother. A lot of people have claimed that WorldCorp has actual, the letters of this phrase are going to be what it stands for: cringe performances. Okay, but it doesn't. The only exploitation is this guy yelling at his younger brother to create this after-school special clip. Somebody had dug really deep into the WorldCorp rabbit hole to find it. WorldCorp is on the service web. They shut down the project. It's still exploitation in a way because it's like mental and psychological child abuse. But at the same time, we have to remember that, we have no context for these things. And so, yes, it can be construed as, horrific material. Hold on.
Pretty disturbing, and it really blew up after a fake story about it having come from a dark website was widely reported by big channels on YouTube. Eventually, this story was put out to pasture as a different one came to light. The creator of WorldCorp, allegedly Money Goblin from the autistic Money Boys clan, was the person recording the video, and the kid screaming was his little brother, who was speculated to be getting hit with cold or hot water from the shower. Moth himself was one of the few people who brought this story forward, and according to him, he got it directly from the people running WorldCorp. Of course, this still raises a few issues since the screams in the video seem quite real, meaning despite there being no evidence whatsoever that this was, many speculated it still could be some kind of illicit video. The other issue with this whole thing is that the WorldCorp video is nothing like the Dig Your Roots video described on Reddit by Moth, especially since he didn't just vaguely remember it, but specify details of it, such as the pattern of the bed sheets on the supposed victims in the video.
So, whatever is actually Dig Your Roots is something else, but it's still child exploitation to begin with. And the fact that specific details like that means you've watched it. So, Moth, you cannot save yourself. You can't.
People already disliked Moth's content and personality because of these issues. It took a bit for others to get on his case and call him out. One of the first to do it was a channel called Jimmy J, who made a video covering the Dig Your Roots situation and criticizing others of Moth's behavior, such as him asking for nudes from his followers and having a channel.
Yeah, no, this has happened. This is a thing he did. I think that he really needs to fucking reality check himself.
On his Discord server for this.
We still have people that pop into Moth's server to see what's going on. I'm just gonna be honest with you. There are moles in the server.
same purpose. Some people claimed that this video expose on Moth is what led him to set the record straight on the Dig Your Roots video, which is incorrect since Jimmy's video came out almost half a year after Moth had already corrected himself. As for the accusations that Moth did those things, he made sure to specify in his tweets about it that you had to be over 18 and required people to actually show ID in order to be able to join the nudes channel on his Discord. So this wasn't a situation where minors were being exposed to images they shouldn't have been. If anything, this implication was a classic case of projecting from Jimmy J himself, since in November 2021, a few weeks prior to Jimmy's big expose video, a user named SimSum was posted.
He wasn't sending news. He wasn't having. Okay. So minors weren't sending nudes of the server, but the fact that it was an open channel does not help his case. It doesn't help his case. I don't give a shit. The only way you can get in to, like, if you got into the 18 plus channels, it'll just literally ask you if you're 18. You can click yes and then access them. Unless you have a specific bot that manages showing your ID, which there are, there's no way that you can actually get around this.
Posting to a Kiwi Farms thread that discussed Moth. His posts were not only very negative towards Moth, but specifically positive towards Jimmy's channel, which was strange due to how relatively irrelevant he was up until this point. Other users immediately picked up on this and speculated that SimSum and Jimmy were the same person, and despite disliking Moth, they took issue with the repeated baseless allegations that Moth was a groomer. Soon after, SimSum backed away from the Plagued Moth discussion right around the same time that another account, Lorelei, popped up, doing the same exact pro-Jimmy anti-Moth act. In a post from January 1st, 2022, Lorelei said, "I'm 18 now, and Durfee is my best friend. She be 17. I don't want to read it that way. By the way, that's just how it's typed, so we're being accurate here, okay? I shouldn't go on the Discord with an adult, I guess, and I asked for it. Parentheses, sex talk with Plagued Moth. I mean, I asked for his attention, so yes, I'm dumb to do that, and sending my nude to him. Parentheses, Plagued Moth. Yes, I did that. You can call me a freak to do that, but I was attracted to him. I don't care if people calling me dumb. I was dumb. This was in March last year, 2020.
Apparently, she also talked about fucking Mama Max.
21. I'm talking about Plagued Moth now, not Max Ma'am. But I'm freaking out on myself that I did this sex talking because of his crazy wife. I'm shitting my pants of her and Moth. I mean that I'm scared from the two of them. If you didn't catch that through the unique dialect, that was Lorelei claiming that she and maybe another underage friend of hers were both groomed by Plagued Moth and were afraid to talk about it. Now, if you're wondering why that post reads like Nico Bellic from GTA 4 wrote it after getting hit in the head with a wrench, it's because that's probably Jimmy behind these posts doing his best to pretend that he's a teenage girl, but on one hand failing at that, and on the other very much succeeding at sounding like a Slavic immigrant with brain.
Not gonna lie. That was pretty dumb. But there are people who did this. And I'm telling you that, you can't just avoid that. Like, he didn't have a bot that verified people's IDs. It was, you were a patron and you got access to the Discord. That is literally it. You don't have to be 18 to be a patron. And you can't just, like, people didn't list their ages very often. Like, Cherry Tears did it, but still. A lot of people didn't. I always made sure people knew I was an adult when I was on that server, but that didn't change the fact that people would fucking get in there and they were under 18.
Damage. After Lorelei was called out, a third account showed up called Love Long-Haired Cats, running the same scheme yet again, though more subtly this time, which allowed it to go unnoticed by the users for about a week. In the meantime, Jimmy, under his own name this time, started posting to the farms, reiterating his claims and saying that Moth was making false accusations about him and stalking him. He immediately ruined the credibility of his alt by having it reply to his own post pretending to be an unusually interested third party, with all the finesse of a developmentally disabled gorilla, which which immediately allowed everyone else in the thread to figure out who was behind it. While the KF users sleuthed the usual ways to confirm what they already believed to be the case, they dug up everything they could on Jimmy, from the other online handles he used to his IP address and full docs. He sort of made it easy for them since he'd doxed his own face, but still, given the realistically criminal implications of the information I'm about to relay, it's best that his personal information be censored. As they trudged through his Reddit account, they found him posting the handle to his kick. By then investigating that handle, they found multiple posts on a site called Like that was used for the exchanging of CP. These posts, dating as far back as 2018, showed him replying.
Yeah, Jimmy J was not a good fucking person. No matter how hard you try to expose Plagued Moth, if you are a predator yourself, you are fucking in the same boat.
To threads offering soliciting trades for megalinks with up to 2,500 videos of, and I quote, black young boys and girls. I'm assuming that this might have been what Jimmy was alluding to in his post to KF, claiming that Moth had been making false accusations about him. However, the possibility that Moth somehow fabricated these posts in order to frame Jimmy is pretty impossible since they were from far before anyone even knew who Jimmy was. Further reinforcing the narrative that everything he said about Moth was projection, Jimmy had claimed multiple times that Moth was stalking and harassing a teenage girl. But as it turns out, Jimmy himself might have been doing exactly that. Initially, people didn't know it was Jimmy, as he was using one of his alts called Soldier Sam Evil Exposed. Regardless, an alleged 16-year-old girl he'd been interacting with online was asked if Sam made her feel uncomfortable, to which she replied, saying yes. Later on, when the Soldier Sam account was connected to Jimmy's alt, SimSum, another KF user claimed that this girl had DM'd him in panic about him posting about her on Reddit. If that kick connection holds up and truly belonged to Jimmy, I can't imagine it being anything good. I won't dedicate too much time to this guy since the majority of his activity is just nonsensical schizo posting over multiple different alt accounts, many more than the ones I've mentioned, but it is pretty insane how adamant he was in trying to clear his name and attack Moth to randoms on Kiwi Farms as if that would make a difference. But anyway, back to Moth. While it may be convenient to paint the anti-Moth narrative as a Kiwi Farms phenomenon, the general public's criticisms of Moth were already pretty prevalent on other websites, but regardless of where the criticisms came from, they were never welcomed by Moth. For example,
Moth cannot take any form of criticism, and I know that he's gonna come. If he finds my channel, he's gonna bring his fucking audience over. And I'm gonna tell you all this, y'all. I pity y'all. And those who, Moth sends over, I pity you. I really do. This video is for educational purposes because I'm spreading awareness of the kind of person this YouTuber is. Because I have been in his community. I know. I'm sorry that, your gore god isn't as great as you think he is. But I'm just going to be honest with you. Your safety is important, and it is better if you stay away from him.
Example, when user Morphine Rat simply posited Moth had been acting weirder, Moth's wife Andrea replied, white knighting for him, and gratuitously attacking the original poster. Now, however in bad form this may have been, it was just a drop in the bucket compared to what was about to come. On May 16th, a thread was created on the Mondo Gore subreddit, one of the largest gore communities, about their dislike for Plagued Moth. The thread quickly erupted in replies, people saying that his content was low effort and low production value, and his topics were saturated and rehashed as he repeatedly revisited stories. People also took issue with Moth's overtly edgy personality, with him calling himself things like the Gore God.
I want to talk about how he treats other fucking creators. He used to work with this YouTuber called Night Crime. And I don't know if any of the horror community remembers Night Crime. He severely harassed Night Crime, like to the point Night Crime almost ended his own life. I don't know if Night Crime is even still around. I think he goes by Night now, if his channel is still up. But Night Crime used to be big on the server. And I watched that man fall apart because of Moth. It hurts so much because Night Crime was a great YouTuber. He was a young kid trying to make his name in the true crime community, and Moth fucked that up.
and herder of feelings. In an attempt to defend him from the onslaught, one person said, "People need to realize his channel isn't for us seasoned watchers. His target audience is for the younger generation. He did get a lot of stuff wrong at the start, but his channel has grown a lot since. When I was growing up, it was basically impossible to find the backstories behind these videos. PM's channel is dedicated to finding the backstory behind these clips. Hate him if you want, but the youngsters like him." Oddly enough, despite being meant as a compliment and defense of Moth, the implication this makes is possibly far worse than anything anyone else had said. Over time, it became one of the most common points of Moth's detractors that, though he wasn't some kind of creep, he marketed as obviously inappropriate content to kids. It's at this point that his server becomes relevant once again. In June, a series of posts were made documenting the decommissioning of one of his server's mods, Fergie. It's not immediately clear what caused Fergie to fall out with Moth and lose his role.
Yeah, he did a lot of awful shit. I'm not going to go into detail because a lot of that shit was done in private, but I know that part of the reason he got banned off of Mob's server and the reason he got banned from Cold Raven's server was sending nudes to minors in his own Discord, which a lot of those were mutual server members of Cold Raven and Plagued Moth.
But it seems that there was some kind of standing order not to talk about it. Once Fergie was long gone and unable to defend himself in the server, Moth started occasionally addressing it, suggesting that Fergie was falsely accusing content creators of being PDF files. And
he did do that. Fergie called a lot of content creators pedophiles. He called me a pedophile because I called him out on his fucking shit with sending nudes to minors.
Was a PDF file himself, though he purposely remained somewhat vague on the topic. In one instance, he said, "I'm God on here. Don't mess with what I've created. I come from nothing. I give everyone the benefit of the doubt to be stepped on because others are jealous of my success. If you screenshot stuff for a child who's involved with a P word, you aren't a part of my community. You can delete your pledge on Patreon, unsubscribe. I really don't care. If you're involved with a user named Derpasaur or Fergie, this applies to you." Later on, he alleged that Fergie had accused Moth and Cold Raven of allowing the distribution of illegal material, and was obsessed to the point that Moth was considering sending a cease and desist, something Moth claimed he had done to other people. Due to the lack of information, I can't give credence to either party here. While Moth did go on to establish a pattern of accusing...
He loved to talk about Moth wherever he went. He was obsessed. But yeah, he has called people pedophiles for no reason when he was one himself. Now, mind you, Moth is a predator. Plagued Moth is a predator. But everybody else said he kept calling pedophiles. There was no substantial evidence. Honestly, at the time, there was no substantial evidence for Moth being a predator either. I will give him that.
The people he disliked of being PDF files, I just don't know what the case is. Almost half a year after their conflict began, in January 2022, Moth brought up Fergie again, claiming he watched and justified it as a study. At one point, Moth sent a disclaimer out to all users of his server, saying, "If anyone with a username Fergie the one and only, or anything of that variation messages you, please be warned that he is a PDF file who has a 14-year-old furry neo-Nazi boyfriend." Strangely enough, Moth expressed his willingness to show people pictures of this supposed underage...
Yeah, this was pretty bad. This was pretty bad.
...boyfriend of Fergie's, which is pretty sketchy and not something anyone should do, and I can't really see how that could have been a joke or something. In other messages, Moth doxed Fergie and posted pictures of him to the Discord. For the time being, this was contained in Moth's Discord server, but this will come back up.
You see where it says return to Fion? That was me. We were talking about Moth being a Satanist. And Aussie is a good friend of mine. He's in the Discord server. I remember when this was posted. This was disgusting. But we were talking about theistic Satanism because Plagued Moth is a theistic Satanist. He works with Lilith. I was only working with Asmodeus at the time. I am a theistic Satanist. But Aussie and I were having a very specific conversation on witchcraft, and Moth just happened to send that.
Up later. In late June, KiwiCube16, the same person who claimed Moth got his mixtapes from Jack Hack, made a post saying, "I have a lot of insight regarding Moth as I was directly in touch with him for a while. Honestly, the most disgusting part of this entire thing is that he is 100% going for a minor..."
Oh, it says Nazi shit. Okay, all the neo-Nazis that were in Cold Raven's server have been removed. I just want to point that out. Nobody is an actual neo-Nazi. We removed those people. We don't fucking play that shit.
Only audience. Proof of that is his Discord, which is filled with they-thems and these cute flowery pictures as profile pictures. I'm sure you get the idea. On the final note, I find it quite hilarious that he now has multiple videos regarding mixtapes, yet he knew exactly who made the compilation that essentially boosted his entire career from the get-go. He still tries to downplay it to his minor-filled audience as some mysterious dark web thing, while we knew from the day it was given to him who made it, and he's admitted to knowing that as well. While we don't have access to the accurate age demographic breakdown of Moth's audience, based solely on how he packages and presents his videos, along with the people in the comments, it's clear that there are more than a few minors. Additionally, there were also minors in his Discord server, and we know that's the case since the Not Safe for Work channel is age verified, but the rest of the server is not.
Exactly.
Presence of minors in and of itself isn't the only issue. The issue
And it's not like a bot that checks your ID either. It just literally says, are you sure you want to access this channel? Are you over 18?
is that while they are protected from the sexual imagery by the ID verification process, they are exposed to the gore videos linked in the server, which will become a significant point of contention with Moth later on. During 2022, there was a noticeable push in Moth's general online persona to cater harder to an LGBT and left-wing audience, as he himself also came out as gender fluid. At one point, he even retweeted Keffels' call to deplatform Kiwi Farms. While not surprising,
the fact that he supported Keffel says a lot, considering what a deranged scam artist she is.
in and of itself, it is pretty strange how he simultaneously markets himself as the most controversial YouTuber ever, an insensitive edgelord who watches people die for fun, and as a staunch ally who gets upset at misgendering. Also in June, a Vice article came out covering the gore community, focusing on Plagued Moth as one of its main representatives. Literally the first guy mentioned in the article. Overall, it's pretty neutral, but it further established him as one of, if not the main face of that content category. This irritated many of the community members who disliked that he was basically selected as their proxy. But in all fairness, some of his videos are gigantic in terms of popularity, so it was inevitable. Despite all of this negative sentiment swirling around on different websites, only in February 2024 did it become something that affected Moth. Now, a lot happens here in rapid succession, so I'll try to keep things at least as unconfusing as much as that's humanly possible. First, on the 12th of February, he uploaded a video titled, "Ripper has been identified." Ripper is someone he covered in a half-hour video from a few months prior, and to put it lightly, he was a hardcore PDF file.
And what y'all don't understand is when he made the Suffer Little Children video, he claimed that it was from Ripper. How the hell did you get it then, Moth? Because if you're trying to get Ripper taken down, and he was the one that made it, why do you have it?
And a distributor of that kind of content. This much is not disputed, but in his follow-up to his first video on Ripper, he claimed that Ripper was also Fergie from his Discord. His evidence was that multiple IP pings and a school email were connected to Ripper when he wasn't using a VPN, implying that these revealed Ripper and Fergie were the same person. I say presumably because at no point in the video does he explain how these IP pings were proven to be tied to Ripper or Fergie.
What I think is that he got IP pinged, or that somebody he was close to got IP pinged, and he decided to pin it on Fergie. Now, don't get me wrong, Fergie is a pedophile. We've already been over this, but I really did think that Ripper was Fergie for a minute when I watched this video. But going to think about it, how do you know? How do you know those IP pings went to Fergie? Did you dox him?
Showing someone's IP or email on YouTube counts as doxing, but there was simply no explanation for how Moth and the unnamed investigators he says provided him with this information drew this conclusion. Again, I have to repeat that they could be the same person, but Moth's video presents no concrete evidence. After 3 minutes of him repeating himself, he says that the FBI and local law enforcement have been notified, at which point he shows a Discord message of Fergie's, which has nothing to do with what he's talking about. This might have been a mistake in editing, or a sleight of hand on Moth's part, faking as if he was showing proof of what he was saying, while showing something completely unrelated. What makes all of this even more suspicious is that while Moth does refer to Fergie as someone who'd been harassing and stalking him for 2 years, at no point does he mention that Fergie used to be a mod on his Discord server. Why not mention that part when it would obviously be very relevant? In this video,
Exactly.
He also mentioned Jimmy J, who at this point has been pretty solidly tied to illegal activity. However, this is a bit of a Trojan horse, as Moth is bundling Jimmy's story with Fergie's despite being very different in degree of legitimacy and also being unrelated. Within a month of Moth's Ripper Identified video, text-to-speech YouTuber Tethies made a nearly 1 hour-long documentary about Ripper that had its last section discuss the allegations that Ripper
Hold on.
opens on a set of DMs coming from an account that allegedly belonged to Ripper, claiming that they weren't Fergie, but found it funny that now people would think that it was him. Tethies also focused on one supposed piece of evidence that Moth presented, that Ripper and Fergie were working on mixtapes simultaneously. This is already pretty feeble on its own as proof they're one and the same, but it's further discredited by Tethies, who explained that Ripper only began making these degenerate mixtapes in December of that year. Last but not least, in this same video, Tethies adds that Ripper is believed to be a 16-year-old Australian, unlike Fergie, who is American and
Yeah, Fergie is 18 and American.
Of age, so much so that Moth has accused him of dating a minor. Of course, either or both sides of this discussion
He was dating a minor because Fergie and his boyfriend were on the Cold Raven server and both were removed.
and maybe lying or being lied to, so it's good to take all of this with a grain of salt. However, Tethies did definitively do more to prove Ripper and Fergie aren't the same person than Moth did to prove that they are. To make a long story short, Plagued Moth might have falsely accused someone of being a PDF file and doxed them to thousands of members in his Discord server. But even if that's not the case, then one of the mods on his Discord server, which was full of minors, was definitely an insane PDF file, and Moth neglected to mention this in his video whatsoever. Neither is too good of an alternative.
They're not the same people, but both are pedophiles, and Fergie was a mod on Moth's server. I'm repeating this for the people that haven't been listening or that are just jumping into the video halfway through.
To be honest. There's a lot more to Ripper's story, but since it's not directly related to Moth, we'll leave it at that and we'll get back to our main storyline. On the 28th of February, Moth uploaded a video notifying his audience that his Patreon account had been taken down. First, it was just hidden and he had to undergo identity verification, but a week later, he was informed that it had gone down due to him using Patreon to share violent or graphic imagery via external platforms, reeling people in through Patreon and then directly linking them to uncensored gore via Discord. In his video about it, Moth claimed that he had no uncensored content anywhere, chalking this
Bullshit.
up to a smear campaign coming from Kiwi Farms users who were transphobic and hated him for being gender fluid. He also said,
You can't call people fucking transphobic when they are calling you out for something that is traumatizing younger generations. You can't. If somebody, it would be one thing if people released a hate campaign on you solely because you were a gender fluid, but they're not doing that. They're doing that. They're calling you out for the bullshit that you have been doing, Moth.
said that Fergie had something to do with it before he went on a rant about Patreon being in hot water for allowing maps or PDF files on their platform. This was actually reported on by right-wing news outlet Breitbart, which is strange since Moth is otherwise really dismissive of anything that comes from people remotely right-wing. I guess his political sensibilities wane when it's convenient for him. Regardless of how true or relevant this controversy involving Patreon is, Moth also mentions that they've profited off of zoo content. And I don't mean zoo as in Harambe going to the zoo having a fun time. I mean zoo as in animals in bad situations. And this isn't that much of an own, considering he himself has made content off of animals getting hurt videos.
Exactly.
Himself. On Twitter, he once again blamed the age verification process and transphobia for his account going down, saying that he has pretty good evidence that this was the case and going as far as to issue a lawsuit against the people behind his harassment. Obviously, a threat directed at Kiwi Farms. Moth was either lying, wrong in his assumptions, or both, as on the same day that the video about Patreon went up, fellow horror tuber That Creepy Reading, whom we'll be referring to as TCR, took to Twitter to announce the following.
Okay, I do want to talk about TCR. I need to talk about TCR. There were some things that TCR said that were kind of out of pocket. But he was right for calling Moth out on his predatory behavior. And originally, I wasn't sure because there were still some things I was questioning that were true on TCR's side. But after watching the stream with him, Lazy Bedhead, Slime Beast, Spinling, I think, and Cold Raven, there was a lot. It all needed to be said. Slime Beast isn't the greatest person either, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, he does cover Moth extensively, and, like, there's a lot of shit that has come up that needs to be addressed.
YouTuber Plagued Moth is lying in his most recent video. I alone reported his account with these screenshots I took from his Patreon server. I paid $5 and with zero age verification, I got access to these videos. In the attached images of this tweet, he provided multiple screenshots from Moth's Discord server showing direct links to real, extreme gore videos. TCR followed this up by saying, he has minors in his server who can get access to this content. Zero age verification required, so long as you have $5. This is not a troll attack. This was me doing what I feel is right to keep our community safe. This is not about gender. I was horrified after being autoplayed on YouTube into one girl 99 stomps counting with Plagued Moth. I heard rumors and then verified them to be true. Uncensored human death is not a product, you cannot sell it, and anyone who does really should not have the platform to do it. Plague, get help. TCR's claims were confirmed by Kiwi Farms user Goody, who provided a screenshot of those same links, but significantly less censored, proving they were original and not sourced from TCR's tweet. Goody.
This is all the BitChute shit that I was talking about. See, each one of these is a BitChute link. Now, he also brought up that, he doxed the wrong person. Fergie was a pedophile, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, he was not Ripper. Like, this was what he did talking about in DMs. This is, his shit.
He then said, this was in his Discord around 2 months ago. I was there and I saw it. No age verification required for it. Other people are calling it out too. He literally removed it the same day the drama started. Like he deleted the channel and then streamed his Discord how, look, everything's fine here. He is lying. He can prove it with logs that this isn't true, by the way, but he will never do it. Meanwhile, Moth got into a slap fight with TCR on Twitter, though his account says since been suspended, so we can only see TCR's posts. Still, we can easily infer what they were talking about. First, Moth changed his position from there was no gore anywhere to there was no gore on Patreon, which, though true, isn't really relevant, since after the first time he got in trouble with Patreon, he started linking the uncensored videos via third-party platforms and even announced that this would be his new model. Then, Moth mentioned the age of the videos, essentially claiming that this was double jeopardy, a mistake he made a long time ago and that he'd already gotten in trouble for, but fixed. TCR
Exactly.
dispels this, claiming the screenshots were from 2 months prior, which is the same thing that the Farms user said, by the way. Someone challenges TCR to show his Patreon receipts to prove he had access to Moth's server, and he proceeded to do exactly that, showing that he could have only gotten access to those links after November 2022 when he first pledged. There's plenty of proof users were being referred to a channel in the Discord called Super Secret Videos that contained the
Exactly, right here. This is from the Discord chats. I was not here at this time, but I remember seeing this.
Uncensored versions long after 2021. If there were any replies past this point, we can no longer see them. But if one side of the argument began quickly backtracking, it was Moth's. Coming off of this exchange looking bad, Moth did a 1-hour live stream addressing the entire situation, which didn't do much to help. In the chat, he can be seen juxtaposing TCR's attack on him with him exposing PDF files, implying either that TCR was attacking him because he exposed PDF files, or that having PDF files exposed somehow made him immune to criticism. Then, Moth suggested that TCR's grudge against him was motivated by money, calling TCR a jealous brokey and accusing him of e-begging. Now, I'm not here to besmirch anyone's fundraising methods, but a guy whose primary source of income is reaction videos on Patreon, accusing someone else of being an e-beggar is pretty rich, or maybe bankrupt, depending on how you look at it. Bragging about money and making fun of other people for not having it.
You call it slander, but he literally provided receipts to show he paid for the Patreon.
As much was something Moth had a history of doing, as Reddit posts of his show. In one thread on r/Mondo that criticized him for profiting off of other people's deaths, he said, "Stay poor and miserable. Just made 10K. What are you doing? Oh right, Reddit. See you in 10 years. Every time someone dies. Why do you
Bruh. The second word is nut, let's just be honest.
cry so much, you little..." It's very ironic that Moth never once stopped making fun of TCR for supposedly making no money and being an e-beggar, since within days of this drama erupting, he created a GoFundMe page for his fans to help him out with rent and medical issues. To be clear, there's no inherent problem with asking for money from your fans in situations like that, but Moth makes it hard to sympathize with him when he just relentlessly railed on someone else for supposedly e-begging. On the GoFundMe page, it specified that their savings were exhausted to buy their daughter an insulin pump, and that they were now facing eviction. An insulin pump is about $6,000 out of pocket, plus maintenance throughout the year, which is quite a bit of money. But did he only have $6,000 in savings? From what I understand, he was making a lot of money before his Patreon went bust. But we can give this a pass, since presumably he also had to pay for her to stay at the hospital a while prior, and he had talked about moving as well, which probably also hurt his finances. What's harder to understand is that he mentioned being evicted. In the state where he lives, the minimum amount of eviction notice time a landlord can give is 2 weeks. So either he and his family were already facing eviction before the Patreon went down, and he's now making it out as if the two were related, or he's just saying eviction hypothetically, as in, if I don't pay rent, then we might face eviction.
Either way, that's still fucking dumb.
Regardless, the page raised enough funds to pay the rent and late fees, and good for him. I hope this inspires him to be less harsh on the brokey community. Also, very early on in the stream, Moth claims that TCR accused him of selling which, based on what we saw so far, is simply not true. So much so that a day after the stream, he made it very clear in a tweet that he didn't believe this was the case. In this same stream, Moth himself demonstrates that there's no evidence of TCR claiming that. When he tried to find the specific tweet in which TCR supposedly said it, he failed, finding instead that TCR claimed Moth had access to CP, and though he never reviewed or reacted to it, had seen it. TCR speculates that this could have been a lie on Moth's part to sound edgier, eventually apologizing for even bringing it up in the first place. For the time being, this part of the story is mired in uncertainty, but we're going to clarify later. During the stream, Moth showed his general chat and went over the rules to prove the gore claims weren't real, but given he's the owner of the server, he could have easily deleted the evidence.
Exactly.
This is what TCR suggested in his tweet from a day after the stream, asking for the audit log.
He could just literally post the fucking moderation laws
From the past couple of days to see if he had used his admin powers to do anything like delete channels or messages from the server. These audit logs were never provided, and the stream only added to the conflict. He even randomly took a shot at Tuv, another commentary YouTuber, for distancing himself when the drama began.
Tuv and I aren't friends because Tuv got scared that he was going to be harassed because I was being harassed. He didn't want to be looked at.
Tuv backed off because he didn't want the controversy of being associated with you. It wasn't harassment, it was moral reasons. Morally, Tuv knew that he would fucking go down a place he didn't want to be.
That as a bad person by associating with me. There you go. Can we stop talking about Tuv for some reason? If you're hyper fixated on Tuv, go watch Tuv. Tuv is a typical grifting red tuber in my eyes anyway. He lies to his fans about content, including the video I was on. I'm been done with that for a while.
Meanwhile, on the TCR side of things, he made a response stream to Moth, though it's since gone down. What stayed up from this era are TCR tweets from the couple of weeks following the beginning of the debacle, and they help elucidate what was going on at the time. One point raised against TCR's narrative is that he once included audio originating from the Jim Jones cult video in one of his videos. However, he explained his reasoning, being that he did it when he himself was a minor, which suggests that he wouldn't do it now and considers it insensitive to feature media from real victims in his videos.
Yeah, TCR fucking changed. Moth is literally covering his own ass. There's a difference between changing and covering your ass. And also TCR was a minor. Minors are immature. Minors make decisions that put them in bad situations because their frontal lobe is not fully developed. Moth is 26 years old. He's probably older now. I don't remember. He's in his late 20s.
Regardless, my objective here isn't to defend TCR, but instead to analyze the validity of his claims. And him potentially being a hypocrite when he was a kid doesn't really change the point that you probably shouldn't record yourself laughing at a teenage girl getting stomped on and posted to YouTube. Things escalated from the Moth side of things, as he began to claim that TCR invited his audience to dox him and his family, followed by a heavy-handed, "You took medicine from a type 1 diabetic child, you transphobic piece of crap." TCR replied, saying, "Stop using your family as a shield for your behavior. They deserve better than that. You're the one dragging them into this, not me."
Exactly.
I never invited anyone to dox Plagued Moth. The only one encouraging their audience to do anything is Plagued. While saying Moth was encouraging might have been a stretch, he was definitely allowing the people in a server to go above and beyond the call of duty, so to speak. For the first few days after the drama began, messages encouraging or wishing for physical violence to happen to TCR
Exactly.
and one of Moth's detractors weren't punished. It was only after this issue was brought up on Twitter that this problem was adjusted for. I'm not really sure what the doxing accusation is supposed to be about, as in his stream, Moth only mentions it at the end and claims TCR is insinuating he'll dox him, but no evidence of this was ever posted. This didn't prevent Moth from outright saying that TCR was harassing his family by calling multiple different police stations in Moth's area and telling them he owned CP. While there's no evidence TCR did this, there are a few strange things from Moth's end, such as him randomly calling TCR by his real name instead of his online handle, and at one point telling him, "Stay safe," and then saying the city that TCR lives in, and then following it up with, "That's a dangerous city, bro."
The only reason that I mentioned Moth lives in Detroit is because if you were here for when I played the Cold Dreaming part, he literally had it in his bio.
This isn't a threat per se, it doesn't exactly look great either.
No, this is not a dox, but that is my city. I do geotag my stuff. I live in Pontiac, and he posted this Twitter thing at me. He had been beefing with me for a while, and he posted this in an attempt to make me feel unsafe.
Now, in mid-March, I personally had that creepy reading on one of my streams for half an hour, during which he laid this information out. He notably made one partial concession, that Moth had stopped producing new uncensored reactions to gore since 2021, but he maintained that the original ones were still available on the server. As TCR receded and seemingly backed off from the conflict, someone else threw their hat in the ring. On the 18th of March, YouTuber Lazy Bedhead dropped a 2.5-hour monster video about the situation. She begins by contextualizing some of Moth's forgotten or overlooked infractions, such as thumbnails of his that featured things like
Yep. Lazy Bedhead's video is a really good one.
The real picture of Junko Furuta's deceased body, and another one that consisted of a screenshot from a real zoo sadism video. There are some other criticisms here as well, such as the point that, every once in a while, Moth would imply that the victim of a specific video somehow deserved it for putting themselves in a risky situation, such as getting themselves involved with the cartel. This is a minor...
Okay, yeah, but at the same time, remember how I said context is everything? The cartel is normalized there. It's like how the Yakuza were normalized in Japan. You know, we do not understand what it's like living in these countries. We do not understand what it's like having violence normalized. For some people, the cartels are safer than just, you know, being out and about and being a random victim of violence. So, like, I'm not justifying what they do, because what they do is horrible, but we don't have context because we are a privileged nation in the United States and in the UK and other developed countries like that. In developing countries, it is very, very different, and part of it is the United States' fault.
Point in the grand scheme of things, but still incredibly tone-deaf of Moth to say. It's no secret criminal organizations frequently pressure and blackmail people into working with them, and the victims in at least some of these videos are police officers who are trying to arrest cartel members. Bedhead also offers some analysis of the finer details of Moth's original story, like that his Patreon account was first suspended because of a missed email about him verifying his ID. Bedhead notices that the email he shows already has the Patreon rep mentioning changes to his content, meaning the age verification never had anything to do with it. This doesn't change much about the selling gore to minors debacle, but it does add to the never-ending list of Moth's not-so-white lies. Then, she gets into the brunt of the TCR situation, bringing up the server's audit logs, as in theory, they would immediately disprove the claims that Moth deleted evidence. Unfortunately, this wouldn't be that simple. In his response to someone named Mango who was asking for them, he refused to provide the logs because it would somehow expose his patrons to attacks, whatever that means. Then, he called Mango a scammer. And this is an entirely different can of worms that I have no intention of getting into in this video, but the claim that Mango was a scammer came directly from someone who was accused of being a sexual harasser by multiple people. I'm not familiar with the merits of any of these accusations, so I won't comment on that, but Moth wasn't really familiar either, so he probably shouldn't have brought it up. After this, Moth was accused of misgendering one of the people criticizing him. Granted, this is so minute in comparison to everything else, but given how
it is really, really minute.
Moth had pandered to the kind of audience that's very sensitive about that kind of thing and pontificated endlessly about how all of the attacks on him were transphobic, this is something he 100% brought on himself. The cherry on top is that Moth's wife, Andrea, chimed in, as she often did, and started getting into it with the 16-year-old that Moth had allegedly misgendered. At one point, she said, "You posted false allegations against my husband that could have him murdered in front of our children. What do you think you're winning by that? Maybe you are overdue for some self-reflection."
Andrea, you have no room to talk when you started dating Moth when he was fucking 16.
After this, Bedhead covered a few testimonies that weren't necessarily related to Moth's beef with TCR, but instead stories from people who were on his Discord server. One of them went by the name of Ram Ranch.
Okay, we need to talk about Ram Ranch. Ram Ranch was on Cold Raven's server too. Ram Ranch was banned because he was openly anti-Semitic and was openly found out to be a pedophile. He openly talked about minors on his Twitter. We found that out. We banned him. He is a pedophile. And as much as he is a credible source for, being in Moth's Discord server and experiencing certain things at the time, just keep in mind that he was banned from Cold Raven's server for being an open pedophile on Twitter.
Who said that while Moth didn't groom anyone, he did occasionally talk about not safe for work topics in channels where minors could see. According to him, minors were the majority of people on the server, with just a few dozen adults at best. What adds to the gravity of the disproportionate age demographics of the server is that out of the entire moderator team, only one was an adult. While it was reiterated that Moth never groomed anyone, Ram Ranch did claim that Moth sporadically cheated on his wife with other adult members of the server. You might think that that's a bold claim to make purely off memory, but Mr. Ranch immediately goes on to say that he was accused by Moth of having asked 5 different times for CP because he made a Virgin Chad meme where Moth was the Virgin and Cold Raven was the Chad.
Yes, he was falsely accused of asking for CP, but at the same time, he was openly a pedophile as well. We banned him for that reason, and he was anti-Semitic in our server.
Oh, how brutal. Another of the testimonies came from someone identified only as Anon B, who claimed Moth directly told him that he bought hentai stickers for his 14-year-old daughter. Anon B's other, much less substantial claim is that he was unwillingly tagged in ERP, erotic roleplay, by 2 other members of the server. Supposedly, when Anon B brought this issue to Moth, he got banned, apparently for having faked his ID and looking too young. On its face, this could be a case of negligent and irresponsible server management, but it gets worse. Anon B claims Moth went on to announce to the entire server that Anon B was a predator and a transphobe, and anyone caught associating with him would get banned. It's uncertain if any specific person was spreading this rumor or if Moth just conjured it out of thin air. I'll disclaim right now that this is an anonymous accuser that Lazy Bedhead featured in her video, so I'm just presenting this evidence as it's presented there, which is to say, it doesn't have a lot of evidence. And the reason I say that is because we're going to unfortunately return to one of the most convoluted aspects of this story: Fergie. Gotta open my gamer subs for this one. According to Anon B, the 2 people who exposed him to ERP were users named Fenrir and Fergie. At this point in her video, Bedhead reiterates Moth's claims that Fergie was a dark web PDF file. Though it could very well be true, it's not substantiated, at least not in Moth and Bedhead's videos. However, Bedhead does zero in on another of Moth's claims about Fergie, that he, along with his supposed neo-Nazi furry teenage boyfriend, were responsible for the creation of a controversial mixtape called MD Pope 5.
He did make MD Pope 5. It's literally just like a troll video. There's not really anything in it. The video literally starts out with Joker dancing and Fergie talking with a voice filter to make him sound deeper than Corpse Husband.
The strange wrinkle to this story is that when they were collaborating, Wendigoon asked Moth if he had any involvement with the creation of MD Pope 5.
Plagued Moth, did you make the fake MD Pope 5?
No.
Okay.
Eventually, Moth did say that he knew someone from his community was responsible for it. It's never explained how he knew that it was someone from his community, but
they openly bragged about it. That's how.
Supposedly didn't know who it was, even though Fergie, whom he eventually said the tape came from, was one of his server's moderators. Even if he really didn't know at the time, how did he eventually find out? Or could it be that he always knew and simply, once again, was being dishonest about it?
He was also emailed about it and spammed about it. Fergie always talked about MD Pope 5.
Branch claimed that not only did Moth specifically know Fergie was making it, but he encouraged him to make it and send it to big content creators. Now, last but not least, we have the issue of TCR's passing and baseless claim that Moth had access to.
Ram Ranch has no pedophiles, zoo sadists, or any others, but I can promise you, on the original Cold Raven server, there was a lot of shit he did.
Up until this point, the narrative was that this was a big mistake on TCR's part, and Moth was relentlessly beating him over the head with this mistake, even after he'd apologized for suggesting it. This narrative drastically changed with the drop of Bedhead's video, as she provided evidence that Moth himself, on his Discord server, said that the worst thing he'd ever seen was part of a video on 4chan by accident years prior. This is a problem, not just because it showed that Moth had been lying about this, but also because some speculate that it's impossible to view it by accident, as it's usually kept in password-protected files you have to go out of your way to crack, which clearly no one could do on accident. Whatever the case may be.
Again, like, the video is taken down, but Scaretheater covered it, that somebody had put it on YouTube and posted a link to the YouTube video.
It's certainly possible to accidentally be exposed to illegal content on accident, because sometimes people will post illegal content under the guise of it being something.
This is from Mudahar Sad Satan video. He accidentally got one of the ones that had illegal gore in it. I don't know if it had child material, but I know that he almost threw up in this video. I have to go back and watch it. That was years ago when he was first starting out.
Something else. I'm not saying that this definitely happened in this case, but it's not impossible per se. In the wake of her video, Moth encouraged people on his Discord server to go and mass flag it, saying that it constituted slander and libel. Despite the evidence she presented, he continued to deny ever having watched illegal content, prompting her to release a screen recording where she showed the specific Discord message in which he said that he did, which was still up at the time of recording. The fallout of this was really bad for Moth. On the 1st of April 2023, he announced he'd booted over 4,000 people out of his Discord. This was either a performative and tacit admission to his server having a large amount of minors on it who needed to be banned, or an attempt to weed out any potential moles. This evidently did not work, since 3 days later, a complete server dump was posted to Kiwi Farms. In the screenshots that came from the Discord, he could be seen lamenting about how bereft his finances were as a consequence of everything that happened. While it's obviously terrible that his children, who aren't at all at fault for how any of this went down, may suffer as a consequence of this, Moth continuing to frame it as "the internet screwed me over" is about as insincere as you could possibly get. What happened here was a consequence of his actions and decisions, not some random instance of everyone ganging up on him gratuitously.
No, this has been in the works for years. It's been in the works for years.
To destroy his livelihood. At this point, why would he even stay online? Why not just leave the internet forever and, I don't know, get a job? In retrospect, it would have been a great idea to do that, because from here on out, it just gets worse. After that creepy reading and Bedhead, a third person took the stand, Slime Beast. Slime Beast is something of a minor personality in the horror community, known mainly for authoring creepypastas. In May, over 2 months after the beginning of their beef, Moth decided to drudge it up again by making a 40-minute video targeting TCR. This didn't really change much, and it's mostly not worth getting into, but it is.
It's literally just Moth trying to backtrack on everything he said. I've already seen the video because I wanted both sides of the story, and also I wanted to clarify things for myself because I was a member of Moth's server and a patron.
It is worth noting that it actually had the adverse effect to what Moth intended. By bringing up TCR again, Moth also attracted people's attention to himself and his own case, at which point Slime Beast reached out to him on Twitter, saying he was working on a video that involved the release of evidence, but he got no response. In it, Slime examined footage from a trailer Plagued Moth made to a video of his covering an infamous illegal content case. And
this is the Daisy's Destruction trailer. He's comparing the two.
Concluded that footage was procured from the original video, meaning Moth must have had access to it or had it in his possession in some way. On Twitter, Moth first completely misinterpreted the claim Slime was making and started talking about the scream sound he used in the trailer, followed by his usual accusation that he was being attacked by transphobes. This is a side point, but Moth's trailer has weird metal music about little girls and the horniest stock scream sound effect playing over the very real introduction to a heinous video, which frankly is in as poor taste as you could humanly get. Moth went on to repeat his claim about the scream sound effect and then threatened to copyright strike Slime's video for slander, which, if you know anything about copyright and slander are not related at all. Eventually, he tweeted, "Who said anything about using footage from anything or a news report?" I take it that this is him slowly coming to the realization of what Slime actually claimed. In this same tweet, he claims that he got his visuals from a DuckDuckGo image search about the CP case. The problem with this claim is that the visuals he used for the trailer were clearly a video, not still images. So again, this explained nothing. After almost
This just makes you look more incriminated, Moth.
half an hour of addressing completely unrelated things, Moth finally came around to what Slime had actually said and claimed that he got all of his footage from a 60 Minutes piece on the PDF file he was going to cover in his video. And you know what? This would have immediately exonerated Moth, were it not for the fact that the clip shown in the 60 Minutes interview is a few seconds shorter and has the image on the bottom half of the screen blurred, presumably because it shows one of the victims. The visuals in Moth's trailer, however, have the bottom half cropped, goes on for slightly longer, and it appears to be slightly higher quality. If the bottom half was blurred like it was in the 60 Minutes interview, then why crop it? This is very strange, and honestly, I get how that would lead someone to think that Moth had access to the original, which of course is very much illegal. About a week after his first encounter, Moth dropped a 30-minute hit.
Yeah, this hint piece was fucking dumb.
Piece on Slime Beast, thinly disguised as a video essay. And when I say thinly, I do mean very, very thinly. He shows Reddit posts of Slime where he's mean to other people, accuses him of being misogynistic and transphobic for reasons that are unclear since the posts don't really show him doing any of that. Then he reads an obsessive stalker's post from the lolcow image board about Mr. Creepypasta and his wife, and claims that the person who posted them was actually Slime Beast. There is absolutely no evidence that this was the case, and Moth doesn't even make an effort to explain why he believes the post came from Slime Beast. The only possible connection between this poster and Slime Beast is that they both dislike Mr. Creepypasta, but then again, so do probably tens of thousands of people because Mr. Creepypasta has like 1 million subscribers, and out of all the people who have seen him exist, there's bound to be a few who don't like him. And from what we can see, Slime's beef with Mr. Creepypasta is over the unauthorized reading of Slime's creepypastas on his channel. Now there's
Which, that makes sense.
still some amount of debate as to whether Slime Beast's copyright striking of people who read his stories as legal, as Moth brings up how Slime apparently copyright striked another horror tuber, Nick's Fears. However, Moth claims this wasn't just DMCA abuse, but instead a transphobic attack against Nick's, which he shows no evidence for.
Okay, I will admit, Slime Beast did say Next Fears has sexual assault allegations, but I need to bring this up. And I don't know if I can get to it on here, but everything that is alleged towards Next Fears, she covered years ago. Let me see if I can find it. Okay. Explore. Yeah, I even looked into this. A lot of people brought this up in like 2019, 2020. If you go to Nick Spears' Twitter, she did fucking post a thing years ago. I'm trying to find it. Hold on. I know she's got it. Oh, shit. Hold on. I want to clear this up. I'm waiting for Firefox to load. Give me a sec. And this takes me a minute. This was in 2019. This was in 2019. In fact, I think it's on. Ah, God, it's so frustrating when you go to find posts after you've already seen them. I need to fucking find it. Okay, I found it. Certain posts were deleted, but I don't know. This is from 2019. This is back when she was dating Nightmind, I think. I told Elliot that I felt like she was trying to have sex with me and I didn't want to and he just ignored me. That she did and it was awful and I hate myself for that now. I just didn't know how to say no because I was scared of her, so I tried to pretend it was okay. When Lena was the only friend I was allowed to have, I confided that Elliot was abusing me and I needed to get away. And there was a lot wrong and that I was a lesbian and all that. She ignored me too. Instead, they both told each other my fears and decided I was a problem. Since then, they've been actively stalking me and trying to ruin my life. I've done a lot more to move on and didn't want to have to publicly talk about what I've been through, but they forced me to. This was life before Azrael got here and I actually started living. In the last few days, I've seen tons of harassment, had to lock my account and back off from the internet. Just because folks don't know my story because I didn't want to talk about it, they instantly think I was a problem and I have to be destroyed. I've moved on. I'm living a happy, healthy life now and I want to get back to that. Hopefully, I'm allowed to do that, but probably not. Point of all this is that parasocial relationships can absolutely cause physical and emotional harm, and you have to protect yourself and get away from them at all costs. It's suffocating having this online right now, so I'll probably delete soon, but I just want people to know what I'm going through first. No one believes me but those that actually knew and interacted with Elliot and Lena. So Slime Beast, that is the one gripe I'll give Slime Beast, is that he brought up these essay allegations knowing full well that people will 100% believe them, but did not go and reference Nyx's response to it. So I just wanted to bring that up before we got back into it. Sorry for taking so long. That was a whole thing.
The last part of this video is very contentious, as Moth accused Slime Beast of being a stalker and a PDF file. His evidence for this accusation was 2 DeviantArt images Slime Beast favorited, one of them being a not safe for work drawing that Moth said was lolly, and an image of a clothed real girl Moth claimed was clearly a minor. In his rebuttal video, Slime Beast showed that the not safe for work drawing was the adult artist depiction of herself, meaning it wasn't a child in any form, and the real girl, whose image Slime had favorited, was 20 years old, as Slime had already said multiple times and was easily verifiable. The only thing pointing to anything else regarding this was a clearly fake Slime Beast account that, at one point during Moth's stream about this, said, okay, the child was 13. There's a variety of factors that make it easy to verify that this account was fake, and in all likelihood, Moth probably knew this was the case. Otherwise,
I mean, Moth is pretty good about going and fucking slandering people and, you know, harassing them.
does Moth think that Slime Beast was constantly denying all the accusations and then randomly confess to all of the claims about him in his chat, in his own YouTube chat, only to then go right back to denying everything? Keep in mind, you can very easily click onto the comments made during the live stream to see that the account that posted that wasn't the same as Slime Beast's real account. There's also another insane aspect of this story, which is that Moth apparently decided that not only was Slime Beast a PDF file, he had also stalked the real girl whose picture he liked for 18 years, and his evidence for this was that the account that posted the image and Slime Beast's account were both created on the same year. Mind you, the account that posted that picture belonged not to the girl in question, but instead the person who photographed her, who happened to be a friend of Slime's and also an adult. To say that Moth
Moth is reaching at this point.
was grasping at straws at this point is very generous. It's questionable if he even believed his own claims at any point, since they were so outlandish. Within a few weeks of these bouts of friction between Slime and Moth, it was revealed by TCR on Twitter that Moth had been sending cease and desist letters to his detractors. Cease and desist letters don't necessarily mean you're being sued yet, but still, it obviously suggested a legal threat. Within a month of that, Plagued Moth's YouTube channel was actually taken down, initially for unknown reasons. One day after it happened, he took to Twitter to say, "My channel was terminated due to multiple false copyright strikes on my old creepypasta videos."
I don't think it was because of your creepypasta videos, Moth.
And it was taken down by TCR and Slime Beast in order to silence my expose videos. This happened shortly after I sent them both a cease and desist. Slime Beast began to brag that he's about to watch a bomb go off, and TCR pinned a tweet showing my private URL of the video he false reported. TCR responded by asking for proof that he was behind the DMCA attacks, but as far as we can see, this proof was
I mean, receipts are always important, and you never provided accurate receipts related to anything, Moth. TCR has provided accurate receipts, and so has Cold Raven, Lazy Bedhead, even Slime Beast. The next Fear shit I had to bring up, but you know.
never provided. When another target of Moth's cease and desist letter.
Also, on Slime Beast's video, there are a couple of accounts that are mentioned in his fucking video. When I searched for them offline, they were deleted. So I don't know if this was true or not. And on top of that, whatever allegations were still up, Mayleets has already fucking stood her ground and talked about it, because she didn't want to talk about it, but it's become so prevalent that she had no choice.
Decided to corner him on the subject, he repeatedly evaded the question. A few days later, Moth decided to turn his attention back to TCR to accuse him of being a PDF file who had harbored that Ripper character, which he still maintained was Fergie, even promising screenshots that TCR had children watching and reading not safe for work material and having VC sex with Ripper. I take it he meant that he had more than screenshots, but still, if he has proof of this, would this not be something you would post immediately to stop any harm coming to these children, as opposed to holding on to it for the sake of perpetuating Twitter drama? There was a lot of back and forth at this time, eventually concluding in Moth also being suspended from Twitter, which TCR chalked up to him falsely accusing multiple people of being criminals. A few days after this, TCR tweeted that someone sent him Moth's Discord server audit logs from March, and something that had been long speculated was confirmed.
Yep.
Moth definitely deleted evidence of freely accessible gore from his server. The only new additions to the Plagued Moth repertoire from this point in time is that he began to abuse DMCA against detractors, something he ironically accused Slime Beast of doing. He even got creative and started pretending to be Slime Beast to DMCA himself. I have no idea what the objective of this was, as obviously Slime Beast wouldn't copyright strike himself, but you know, with Plagued Moth, it's like I'm just my brain's melting, frankly. I don't know. On August 7th, I had both TCR TCR and Moth on my stream, over on the Tom Dark channel. And though it wasn't very productive, it did result in a kind of temporary ceasefire between the two, which did not last very long. In September, Slimebeast posted a video doing some math based on a Reddit post of Moth's wife, and concluded.
Yep, this is what I was talking about. Andrea started hooking up with Moth when he was 16 or possibly younger.
That they first got together when she was 26 and he was 17. Moth and his wife both responded to these accusations, essentially suggesting that they only began dating after Moth had already turned 18, which could be true, but if we go solely off of this Reddit post, that's impossible. In her post from 2019, his wife says that they hooked up almost 8 years prior, which, even if you whittle it down to just 7 years, means it happened in 2012, during which time he would have been 17 for the majority of the year. Eventually, she corrected
17. Correct.
herself and said they started dating a month after he turned 18. Later, in 2023, when Cold Raven had officially joined the group of Moth's detractors, he posted about Moth having sent gore to Lazy Bedhead, something which is very weird and just strange to do to someone, obviously. Bedhead confirmed this and added that he not only sent her gore, but also edited TikTok posts of hers spliced within that gore, which frankly, if she wanted to, could be considered some kind of death threat if she really wanted to be dramatic. Eventually, Moth responded directly to Cold Raven in a video, but whatever impact this could have had was significantly dampened by him bringing up the accusations he had seen. Here, he specifies that he hadn't seen any part of the itself, but instead had just seen the trailer for it. It's crazy that there's a trailer for that kind of thing, but you know, these people are sick in the head. This is something he'd also said during my live stream with it. While I do think that
it doesn't matter.
this could be true, and I don't think that he is some kind of creep himself, I simply don't understand why this couldn't have been clarified much earlier, preferably without the hefty side order of random unnecessary lies he served up every single time someone brought it up to him. But keep in mind, this doesn't really explain the thing Slimy.
Cold Raven is not a saint by any means. I will give him that criticism, but at the same time, he's doing better than you are, Moth. He's not predatory. The man literally got me out of homelessness at one point. Like, he keeps minors out of his server. He does not... He does not show illegal content. He doesn't even fucking show actual gore clips. He just talks about them.
Trailer for his video containing what appears to be a higher quality version of the introductory portion to the same tape he had been repeatedly accused of possessing. But regardless, going on about this is beating a dead horse at this point. The attempts at DMCAing his opposition continued but didn't have much success, and in March 2024, he announced he'd lost his real-life job, supposedly due to harassment he received on account of what was going on online. This is unverifiable, and we have to go off his word here, but it certainly could be true. Since then, he's been repeatedly banned off of multiple platforms, but he still pretty regularly posts to his YouTube channel. However, the hope of him recapturing the same traction and clout he had a couple of years prior is simply long gone. Plagued Moth hasn't once expressed any intention to apologize, admit to the tens of times he's falsely accused people of being creeps, and instead, every time he's lied and purposely misled his own audience to make himself look better. On YouTube, you're lucky if you get a second chance after one slip-up of that caliber, but after dozens upon dozens...
And the thing is, he's back on YouTube. He's back. Also, I want to correct something because I just realized it, that the timestamp where I was talking to Aussie in the video was January 2022. I want to apologize. I did leave that server in 2022. Early 2022. I just realized that, and I want to apologize because I gave incorrect information myself.
The only people left will be delusional sycophants and kids too young to know any better. The attempts of his to frame all of this as people gratuitously going after him, or platforms being unfair to him because of the topics he covers in his content, are transparent. Justin Wang, for example, covers plenty of shock video and adjacent topics, but his channel works just fine because his attempt isn't as gruesome or tasteless as Moth's, and
he does it respectfully. Wang does it respectfully.
Doesn't just sit and watch these videos and laugh at them as they come out. Even in the times where the criticisms he made against his detractors are fair and accurate, it doesn't suddenly justify the things he's done. Before TCR ever got on his case, he already had his Patreon taken down once for providing access to uncensored content to his followers. His business model was a castle of sand, ready to collapse on its own well before anyone had poked any holes in it. Now that it did collapse, he wants to blame everyone else. Now, I don't personally wish any ill will on the guy whatsoever, especially considering his family situation.
I don't wish ill will, but somebody needs to investigate this man.
with the people he needs to support, but given he himself doesn't want to change the way he does things, I can't imagine the future holds anything different for him. Unfortunately, this is the story of Plagued Moth. I've been Turkey Tom, thanks for watching, and until next time, leave me alone. Logan Paul, one of the biggest...
Okay. So, that's what we currently know about Plagued Moth. If you go to his channel, which I'm going to do now, this is when he brings up Amber Alert once again, and now it has been talked about that it is now illegal, which means he watched it and covered it, and it was illegal content. Also, if you go to his channel, community, if it bleeds, it leads. It has been his phrase for a fat minute. He shows off content before it reaches YouTube. And then hold on. We're going to scroll down. This is him saying he has no ex-mods besides Fergie and 3 friends. So you admit that Fergie was a mod on your server. He showed a fucking screen recording. Watching death makes me feel alive. Let's talk about that. And this is him talking about zoo content. Let's just be honest. Hold on. He's bringing his Discord back. And he was homeless for a time. I'm trying to find it. He deleted it. But he returned after he was homeless for a hot minute. I'm not giving you any attention, Moth. Shut the fuck up. but yeah, um, that is everything personally of what's been going on recently. There's my 2 cents from me being on both servers. Um, I'm still on Cole Raven's server. It's under new leadership because he doesn't use it as often, but it's run by one of the OGs. Um, so if you do have any thoughts, please give them in the chat. Please give them in the comments below. We're gonna probably go on to something a little less energy draining because I'm like fucking tired. I'm gonna see if I can play some Hellblade with y'all. But that is where we're at right now. Um, yeah, don't fucking listen to Plagued Moth. I'm just gonna be honest. And to those who are still following him, I'm sorry that you have to deal with that bullshit. Anyway,